If you just got the Cricut Explore 5, this video is for you. I'm going to walk through everything, what's new with the machine and how to use it. I'm also going to be making 3 projects, so by the end of this video, you'll feel confident using it. I purchased the Machine Plus Essentials bundle. This comes with some standard material. I'll be using most of this in today's video. I won't be using the insert card or the iron-on. This way, you'll be able to get a good idea of how to make a few projects with this. This box on the inside, I thought it was packaging, but it had the essential tools inside, so I'm glad I realized that before I threw it away. This also comes with an insert card mat, a paper trimmer, and a 12x12 light grip mat. Cricut Explore 5 is Cricut's newest generation of the Explore line. The Explore series is great if you're just getting into Cricut. It's usually what I recommend when someone is starting out. I put some popular projects you can make with this on the screen. The color I have is taupe, and it's not my favorite. I normally like the brighter color machines, but I feel like it's already growing on me, so we'll see. I purchased this from Cricut, and that was the only color option, but I have seen at Michael's they have a teal option as well. The pricing for this machine is great. It's $199 for the machine only and $249 for the Essentials bundle. On Prime Day, the bundle was actually on sale for $199, so that's awesome. This is actually less expensive than what the Explore 4 was originally marked at, so that's awesome. The machine connects to Cricut Design Space through Bluetooth. You can use a USB cable, which is what I have here, but I never use that. I find Bluetooth way easier. Here's the power cord that turns the machine on. I have found with the new Cricut machines, they've been making the cord longer, which I really appreciate. My desk is pretty big, so this gives me a bigger range to work with. When you plug this in, what's new with this machine is it'll automatically power on. There's no power button. I don't love that the top is partly open. I genuinely want to know why Cricut thought this was a good idea, because there is absolutely going to be dust getting on the inside. There's a few design differences. There's only 2 buttons now, and I'll show you later why I really like this. The top storage compartment is also gone. I rarely use that, so that's not a problem for me. It still has that storage tray on the lid, but it doesn't have the magnetic strips anymore to put your blades on. I use that for my foil transfer blades, but other than that, I do have a blade organizer. I don't use my storage compartments too much in my machines. What about you guys? The Explore 5 is 30% more compact than the previous Explore series. I'm comparing it to the Explore 3. The size difference for me doesn't feel dramatically different than my workspace. One thing that does stand out is that it no longer has a cover that lifts up, so I can see how that might save some space, especially if you have your machine on a covered desk and the lid would need more clearance. I'm assuming that's why the machine's open, to make it a little smaller. Some people like to use the iPad on the lid of the machine, so with this new one you aren't able to do that. Here's the box that I found later with all the tools. They have a new scoring tool, kind of like a blade, instead of the old scoring stylus. This goes directly in the main blade slot instead of the separate clamp. The pins have changed with the Explore 5. It only fits the new pins, which have a thicker, larger barrel. This one is a double-sided pen. So if you have a collection of older pins, it will not work with this, sadly. The marker is supposed to click into place, and I didn't realize that. You have to press it super hard. So I have some mistakes that I left in the video you'll see later. The blade housing is still the same. This is the typical premium 5-point blade, and all your old blades can fit in this. Blades that work with this is the fine point, the scoring tool, deep point, foil transfer tool, and the fabric tool, which I cannot find mine anywhere. The Explore series can cut 12 inches wide and up to 24 inches using a mat. With Cricut brand Smart Material, it can cut up to 12 feet. I rarely use Smart Material. I mainly only use it if I do need a really long project. I'm in Cricut Design Space. I haven't added my machine yet, so first I'll click on Explore 3, and let's see if it pops up. Okay, here it is. I'm going to click Explore 5, and it's going to connect because I have my Bluetooth on, and now I can just select Setup Machine. It says it's updating firmware. Then I'll hit Continue. It wants me to do a quick test cut. I'll hit Continue. I placed the smart vinyl under the rollers, and as you can see, I pressed that arrow to load it, and I didn't realize at this point that all you have to do is push that blinking light. It's going to load the mat and cut all at once. I absolutely love this new feature. Only press the unload when it's done cutting. Now that I have my machine set up and ran a test cut, I'm just going to upload an image and make a keychain. I do have a recent video showing how to use Cricut Design Space, so I'll link that down in my description box if you're totally new to it. Over on the side, you can select shapes, images, text. What I'm going to do is grab an image. It shows up on the side here. You can select advanced search and look through all of these. You don't have to use Cricut Design Space images. You can pull in images from the internet. There's tons of websites that you can find images from, Etsy, Creative Fabrica. You can search for some free ones as well. But for this video, I'm going to make it easy and do Cricut Design Space images. I do pay for Cricut Access, which gives me access to these. You don't have to. It's totally up to you. I'm just going to type in inspirational quotes because I think that's fun for a keychain. I'm going to grab this one. Today is going to be a great day. I'll hit the plus sign, then I can hit view. I like this one because it reminds me of my son. Whenever I would tell him to have a great day, his response would be, I will, and really confident about it. I've always been impressed by that. Now I need to select my size. I measured the width of my keychain, and I think the best size is going to be 1.25 inches. It is pretty tiny, so we'll see how this machine cuts. If there was multiple layers in the layers panel here, then I would need to attach this together, but it's only one layer, so I can go to the make screen. I'm going to be using the Smart Material that came with the machine for this. You can use whatever adhesive vinyl you want. You would want to select on a mat, but for this one, I am choosing without a mat. I'll hit continue. It's only going to give me certain settings because it knows I'm using Smart Material. I'm going to select this one. It's the permanent vinyl. I load this into the machine, and I love that I can just push that one button and it'll do it right away. Before, it would load the vinyl, then it would take it a few minutes, and then I would have to hit the start button again. So this is great. If you're just starting out with Cricut, I would probably pick a design that isn't so tiny because it can get frustrating, but let's see how this machine does. Smart Vinyl wastes some material on the top and side, which I don't love. I'm impressed. This cut really well. Another thing I don't like is the backing is so glossy, and it makes it harder to get my weeding tool in there to weed those tiny pieces out. I also prefer my LED pen tool, so I grabbed that instead. It still made it a little tricky with that Smart Vinyl backing. I'm going to use the Cricut transfer tape that came with the machine. This pulls the entire design over to your blank. Cricut transfer tape's not my favorite, so I make sure I scrape it down really well so that it'll pick up onto that transfer tape. It also helps to remove the backing of the vinyl. I place it on my keychain, then I make sure it's pressed down really well, and I remove the transfer tape. Next, I'm going to be making a card, so I'll use the cardstock and the scoring tool. You can click on New Project and it'll pull up these options, or you can just choose from here. You can go into the blank canvas and create a card from scratch. I'd really like to do a YouTube video on that soon, but what I'm going to do to make this a little bit more simple is select card. The Explorer did come with the mat that has an option for the insert card, but for this video, I'm going to choose a folded card because I want to show how to use the scoring tool. It gives a few options for occasions. I'm going to do 4th of July since that's coming up and I don't see that, so I'll just select start designing. It gives me a 10 by 7 inch template. I'm going to search 4th of July. And here's some options that pop up. I do find with cards, it's easy to take templates from Cricut Design Space, but designing can be really fun too. I'm going to select this one. There is some wording in here. That's going to be the pen or marker. I'm going to be using the marker for this. So what I'm going to do is click on this square. I'm going to switch this to marker 1mm and I'll make it black. And I'll do the same thing for the other one. The rest of this, as you can see, it says basic cut. It's going to cut it out, and the blue behind it, it's going to cut out a separate blue sheet that you can glue or tape on the inside. So I'll show you what that looks like if I click make. You can see here's the first piece, and the next one is just that blue rectangle. I'll hit continue. I'm going to select medium cardstock for my cut setting. And then it comes up with this pen loading instructions. I also wondered what that symbol meant, but it's showing that that works with the Cricut Explore machine. On this screen, I like that it shows me everything that I need. I need to load my white cardstock, and it's showing me to load my pen. I grab my cardstock. Here is where I make mistakes that I hope you can learn from. I shared on Instagram, and it sounds like other people have had similar mistakes. Mistake number 1 is I placed the pen in, but I didn't push it far enough where I heard the click. I assumed that it was incorrectly for some reason, so I went ahead and loaded my mat. When it started drawing, you could see little cuts in the paper from the fine point blade. It really would have helped if I read the instructions because it says place it down until it clicks. It also says you can have the blade in the clamp as the machine's drawing. I assumed that you couldn't because it was making those little cuts. The next step was the cutting process. Even though there was marks, I decided to go with it anyways and had 2 more mistakes. In Design Space, the score line was set to cut, so as you can see, it's cutting it. It's also drawing it everywhere because you are supposed to take the pen out of the clamp. This is new. With the other Explore machines, you can keep the pen in as it draws. Once again, it helps to read the instructions. As you can see, it says remove the pen. I find the pause button to stop the cut doesn't work well on the other machines, so that's why I had not pressed it yet, but I gave it a try. And it immediately stopped the cut, so that's amazing. Also, the pause, start, and the load button is all that one button. Really like that. Just a mess, so let's try this again. I'm back in Cricut Design Space. I need to change it to score. I don't love that it shows a preview section. I want the layers panel, but to find it, it's right at the top. I'll click that. Then it shows all my layers. As you can see, the fold line is set to a basic cut. For some reason in Cricut Design Space, it'll automatically set it to that. So I'm going to go and change it to a score. Now I can go to the Make button. It's showing me to load my pen. Then next it's going to be the scoring tool, then the fine point blade. I took the fine point blade out since it was making cuts with the pen in, but all I had to do was press the pen in a little bit harder to click it into place. The clamp for the blade holder was flying around when it was drawing too, so I knew something wasn't right. Sadly, I didn't figure it out until I was finished with the video. You do need to remove the marker with the next step. It tells me it's scoring next, so I add my scoring tool. Then I add my fine point blade. With this machine, there's a few extra steps when you're writing, scoring, and cutting. The marker still drew on the cardstock, but as you can see, it's very thin because it wasn't pressed down all the way. I have the Cricut machine cut out the blue cardstock, then I glue it to the card. It was a little difficult to fold because there wasn't many score lines. It might have just been the card template. I think you can just grab the score line and it has several others, so I'd have to look at that in Cricut Design Space. I'm going to make stickers for my last project. I'm just going to do the same thing. I'll click on stickers and labels. I'm going to select the stationery stickers. And I'm going to go to templates to make this easier. I'm just going to select one of these. I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to keep it how it is, and I'll click the make button. I'm going to send this to my printer. I'll keep the bleed on and I'll turn on my use system dialog. That way I can set my print settings. What I want to do for this is change my quality to best. That makes a huge difference with the quality of the print. I'm using the Cricut printable sticker paper. I have to place mine upside down in my printer, but it prints on that solid white page. I didn't love Cricut's printable vinyl. I just felt like it was very thin and the quality just didn't look too great to me. I'm going to select printable sticker paper white. Everything worked fine with the print and cut. The only thing I would say is make sure you calibrate your machine for print and cut before you do your first project. I didn't do that, and a few of the flowers on the bottom looked maybe a tiny bit off-centered, and I know the calibration would have worked for that. There's so many different printable vinyl settings. This one ended up doing a die cut, and I thought it was going to do a kiss cut, so you definitely have to play around, and all the material is different as well, so I just recommend test cuts. Here's how this turned out. Here's what I liked and didn't like about the machine. The price is great. I love the one button load and start, and I actually like the size of it. I don't mind that the storage compartments are gone. The actual machine cut really well and I had no issues there. Open design is my biggest complaint with dust getting in. Also, I don't love that you can't use your old Cricut pins and that you have to take the pin out when cutting with the blade. It looks like they're phasing out the other Explore machines, so if you're brand new to Cricut, then I would go with the Explore 5 if the Explore series is what you're going for. If you already own an Explore machine, I see no big compelling reason to upgrade. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up and let us know your thoughts in the comments. I love to hear. I also just created a little beginner Cricut ebook. It is free for anyone who signs up for my Substack, so I'll put a link for that down below as well as for the new Cricut machine.